Is this yours? Oh, this is mine. We've been given it. Oh. Thank you. Yes. My brother's here. Yay. My mom and brother. And my wife, if you will. Where'd she go? No, not here. Oh, there's my honey bun. All right, welcome everyone. We're going to call the meeting to order. Please rise for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for invocation. Welcome, Pastor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Would you all please bow your heads with me for a word of prayer? Loving and gracious Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight, but too often we have avoided you altogether. We have been tempted to follow our own vision and plans without first consulting you. We have exchanged your promises and providence for our own feeble wishes and dreams. We have trusted in ourselves and in our intelligence and initiative instead of acknowledging ourselves as but your humble servants carrying out your will. Forgive us our sins of arrogance and pride. Through the shed blood of Christ, cleanse us and empower us to accomplish your desired best for our community. Bless these, our elected leaders, with your mind and heart as they enact the laws and rules that govern us. May those who administer these rules do so with justice and understanding. Bless our community so that we live in true harmony with each other. Move those with great resources to have the spirit of generosity for their neighbors with great needs. Prosper our businesses and local endeavors. Protect those who put themselves in harm's way for our safety. And grant to each citizen in Fountain Hills pride in this community, joy and peace in their relationships, and personal responsibility for each other's well-being. Heavenly Father, we turn again to you for blessings, confident of your love in Christ Jesus our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Daly from Trinity Lutheran Church. Thanks, Andrew. Roll call, please, Bev.
Mayor Schlum.
Here.
Vice Mayor Dickey.
Here.
Councilmember Cantino.
Here.
Councilmember Leger.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Elke.
Here.
Councilmember Hanson.
Thanks, Bev. And thank you for coming tonight, and some of you enjoyed the reception. Thanks for coming, brother. My beautiful bride, my mommy as well. Thanks for all coming. And thank you to Town Council for letting me keep my back to you for maybe 25 minutes. And before I get started, I want to thank the staff here at the greatest town in the world, Fountain Hills, for doing such a great job. Every single day you're here, and to all of those organizations we contract with, namely the Sheriff's Office and Rural Metro for our firefighters, along with numerous others that we contract with, but in particular those two. And to my council, it's great serving with you. Got us positioned very well for a good, bright future, and it's those tough decisions that we've worked well with one another to set the course in the right direction and to prepare for brighter days. So thanks for working hard and making the tough decisions in a tough time. So welcome to the State of the Town. Thanks for coming out today. I will keep it under 30 minutes again. I'm shooting for 23, and then we'll get on with our exciting regular council meeting, which is going to be about equally brief. But thanks so much for being a part of Fountain Hills and coming out tonight for the State of the Town. They say it's important to start with some levity, so there I am enjoying Oktoberfest with a deer and a chicken. And there's just a little slide that shows some of the fun, awesome events that happen. St. Patrick's Day, obviously, at the picture of the Green Fountain, and the great Oktoberfest t-shirt there being garnered by one of the folks enjoying Oktoberfest. Tonight I'll go over the town financial makeup, some successes, highlights, some challenges, opportunities, and then moving forward. Same as last year. Now first we'll get through the boring stuff, the town financial makeup. But it's important, I think, to look at this every year. We're on a similar trajectory we've been on the last couple of years, but things are starting to flatten out, thankfully. You can see in 06 and 07, our general fund, which is the fund that dollars come into that operate the town. So it's the fund we talk about most. There's also a capital improvement fund that we talk about quite often. But this one is the one that pays salaries, pays our contractors, and helps us to operate every single day to keep the roads and the parks and everything else we're responsible for operating. So back in 06, 07, and 08, we were around the $17 million in revenues. Budgets of about $18 million, I think, at that time. Revenues came in at just under $17,000, and then into this year, closer to that $12 million figure. So we've been on a nasty trajectory, but we have certainly made our adjustments. The revenues and where they come from, it's important to know, so you know where your risks are, and you know how to strategize and plan, and our staff does a great job helping council make sure we know where we'll be the next year, at least conservatively. You can see the largest piece of our general fund revenues come from local sales tax, and it's a larger piece of the pie than last year. I think we were at 53% last year. In 2010. This is 2011 numbers. And 34% comes from state shared revenues, which are some of the same types of tax revenues that come in, but they come into the state and then get shared with towns and cities throughout the state of Arizona on a proportional headcount basis. That also is going to begin shrinking because other cities and towns will be growing faster than us and adding more headcount, and we will continue to get less of that. In general, the pie itself is getting constrained and is shrinking, as you could tell with our overall general fund revenue numbers. So we're very reliant upon people spending money, and local sales taxes in particular. This is a little bit busy slide I created. It shows the same revenues over a similar period of years, the yellow columns, and then it shows blue columns, which shows our public safety spending. Public safety spending is at about the same levels it's been for a number of years, but you can see that our general fund revenues, the one that we pay our public safety dollars from, has dropped considerably. And then if you can read further into those yellow bars, there's little red numbers that indicates the amount of dollars left over after paying for public safety, which we value greatly here in Fountain Hills. That's why we haven't reduced that spending. You can see in 07, 08, there was $11 million outside of public safety available to spend on everything else, parks, roads, salaries, contracts. And now in 11, 12, there'll be about $6 million. So almost 50% of the revenue to pay for everything outside of public safety is gone. And it has been that way this last year as well in 2011. Our 10-11 budget, very similar. Most people wouldn't know that that's occurred here in Fountain Hills because of how well the staff's done and the volunteers. That's just a picture of how significant the revenue reductions have been. This is the effect on our headcount of our employees. The town, it's called full-time equivalent employees, which makes up our full-time employees and also part-time employees kind of rolled up into one to give you a full-time equivalent number of employees. So we were over 100 employees at one point, but then leveled out, as you can see, at 88. And then as the budget hit us, and largely hit us in the building area, like everywhere else in Arizona, and we had to start reducing staff considerably, and we did a couple of rounds of that, and you can see where we are today at 56. So a very substantial reduction in employees, which we miss them very much, and hopefully they're doing some things where they can serve their families. But through this, the numbers are down, which has made it difficult, as I said at the beginning, for council and staff. But I'm proud of this council and proud of our staff because they've been great fiscal stewards of your tax dollars. Every year, balance the budget, in fact, have come in with surpluses in the budgets most every year. We've actually, when the economy started to decline several years ago, we started a rainy day fund and funded it to $1.3 million, and we haven't touched that, even though it's been raining. We've maintained not just that fund, but also our savings, our balances in the general fund and capital fund and other funds have been maintained. And unlike, I think, the United States of America, our bond rating still remains high. Is that at the same level as the United States of America now? But anyway, quite high bond rating, thanks to the great work of our finance staff in keeping us ahead of the declines. Our debt is extremely low. We haven't raised taxes, and we paid off Town Hall. We paid off the bond on Town Hall, so we paid off some of our debt in advance of the planned time frame, which also freed up dollars that would have gone to debt and to capital reduction for operational expenses. So that was a smart thing. So some successes and challenges. I want to highlight, I think this last year in 2011, one of the highlights was one that several of the council members had a big part of, which was the Veterans Day celebration here this last year. And Council Member Elke and Council Member Hansen and several others and a lot of the folks in the community really spearheaded a great event, not a town event, but an organizational event that the town, of course, facilitated and helped support. Just turned out to be a great event, and it was in conjunction with getting as many red shirts from the Red Shirt Friday efforts here in Fountain Hills, and they had thousands of red shirts, and of course you can see the fountain turning red in the background as well. The fountain turned red. They did a great walk around the fountain and a great gathering at the performance pad with some inspirational speakers lifting up our veterans. And our community is really what it is because of the volunteers in it. I'm going to highlight some of the town volunteers, those volunteers that work directly for the town government here in Fountain Hills. But as you know, our city is really put together by all the organizations like the Kiwanis and Rotaries and so many others that are all volunteer-based themselves. One of the things we did this year was Make a Difference Day, and a lot of you participated. 175 volunteers were out there getting dirty, painting, pulling weeds, repairing people's homes, and this was really focused on those that couldn't help themselves. And we heard some tremendous stories. There's some pictures from that, and also the Give a Lift program, which is helping a lot of folks get around Fountain Hills. In fact, when funding for a transportation service from the county went away, and our cost was increased greatly. If we wanted to continue it, we couldn't support that. Volunteers stepped up in the Give a Lift program that's coordinated through our volunteer coordinator here at Town Hall. So great friendships have formed from that, but it's all volunteer-led. They're spending their own dollars on gas and taking care of one another. Just a couple of highlights. For those that are not volunteering today, there are a great deal of opportunities I wanted to point out here. As this comes around maybe on Channel 11 or you're looking at it on the web if you're not watching it now, here are just a couple of opportunities for you to plug yourself into. And as most of the volunteers have shared with me, you get more out of it than you do for those that you're serving. And these are some great opportunities for you to get plugged into. There's always a need, particularly when the economy is tough like this, for folks to step up and serve a little bit more and help those in their community directly. And for all those 700-plus volunteers that are working for the town, I want to thank you very, very much. The numbers continued to grow. And I want to thank Heather Ware for being the great coordinator that she has for many years. The volunteers here in Fountain Hills do a great deal more than just help us with tasks around Town Hall, but they're all over our town. They save us a great deal of monies as well as lending their great skills and talents to our town to keep us moving forward. Here's some points of pride I'm going to touch on. This goes against my PowerPoint rule because there's too much type in here, but there's so much to be proud of here in Fountain Hills, and I'll just go over a couple. The greening effort continues in downtown now in their phase 4, and I'll talk about more of that in a minute. The McDowell Mountain Preserve folks have put together some great signage out on the trails. If you haven't been out in our preserve, I encourage you to get out there, and if you ever have an issue, you can find a monument that says where you are, and if you pick up your cell phone, you can just let them know that, and the folks at our public safety offices here are supported by maps and others that have been created by our volunteers. And see Bill Myers here. Thank you, Chair Myers, for helping to make this happen. Just another opportunity for folks to serve on our town commissions. And Bill Myers is part of the group that helped put all these signs out there in the preserve. Great volunteers. We partner with the MCSO and the Coalition to provide alternative activities for youth, and that's obviously always needed, particularly in the summertime when they're out of school. Senior Services hosted the intergenerational sock hop at the beginning of the year. It was a great, huge success. Lots of folks showed up for that. And the Public Art Committee acquired a great deal more public art by generous donors here in the Fountain Hills, over a dozen pieces in 2011. The Centennial Committee put together a great event. The town helped to fund a portion of that, and a Centennial Circle was built this last year, and obviously it came to culmination on our state centennial just the other day, which was a lot of fun. So great job to the Centennial Committee volunteers and the staff that helped support that. Home delivered meals delivered 847 meals this last year, and that's a great program that's been going on for probably close to 20 years now. We had our first Citizens Academy. The second class is going on now, over 20 folks participating in that, where you come into Town Hall and you learn all you ever wanted to know about town government operations, and it's a great program that staff puts together to add to the transparency and invitation of the public into Town Hall. And as I mentioned, the second class is going on now. We had our first 2 overhauls of the fountain pumps, and we just approved the third. So we've got our pumps that should be up and running for many more years to come, and looking out for maintenance of some of those important elements in our community. And one of the most fun things, if you didn't hear about it, you should celebrate. We were rated as Playful City USA. So our community, with all its outdoor activities and opportunities, was recognized by Playful City as Playful City USA. And we helped to facilitate several new events, including the Mountain to Fountain Race, which is also coming up in a couple weeks for the second one, a Relay for Life effort, and also the Great Grape Stomp, which is an element that we're hoping to add and work with the Chamber on adding events on each side of these great fairs that they have, the arts fairs. So continue to have events on the elbows of each of those weekends. Here's just a picture you might be able to see some of. The downtown greening, as I mentioned, I'm going to talk a little bit more about them, and they did this project this year, 2011, which was the Desert Garden and the Desert Walk, where you can look at the elements, the plants that work here in the state of Arizona, and it's terrific. They've got a great deal of, you wouldn't believe there's so many plants that grow in Arizona, and as well as a big wildflower area along the fence that was painted by the high schoolers years ago, right there at Fountain Park by the playground. So if you haven't been down there, check it out. Again, volunteer-led, volunteer-funded. Trash and recycling update. Well, in 2011, that's kicked off this year in the first 6 months of the program. With Allied Waste, town residents have diverted 2 million pounds of materials from landfills, and that's equivalent of over 1,000 SUVs have gone into recycling instead of into the landfill. And if you're a driver down Beeline Highway, you can appreciate that, as that landfill gets higher and higher. So we're doing our part, so keep up the good work. We really value partnerships here at the town of Fountain Hills. Mentioned the Chamber of Commerce a couple times, the greening efforts, working with all different organizations, and here are just a few more. Several of us were at the Fort McDowell Yavapai Nation's inauguration the other night, and we got to see some of our neighboring tribal council members get sworn in. Quite a ceremony, and that's just one example of the great partnerships we have here with our neighbors and also with organizations that help support the town as well, including Chamber of Commerce, Boys and Girls Club, the Community Theater, the Food Bank. Some of those we contract with. Here's a great organization that we work with, the Sister Cities organization. They partnered up, if you remember, in the summertime with all the high schoolers, and in particular the Fountain Hills High School's hospitality management program led by Claire McWilliams. How many folks did they take down there? 30 kids or so? I think 30 kids and a bunch of chaperones, and did an amazing job for our sister city, something to be extremely proud of. They came into town council and gave a debrief for us and shared a lot of great pictures, and each of them spoke about the highlights of the trip. I just threw in a couple of pictures here. The middle one on the right shows them working hard to build over 10 homes in our sister city of Ataco, El Salvador. They actually built homes. They trained how to build them and then executed once they got down there in Ataco. And really the spearhead of this is our Sister Cities organization, but also former council member for the town of Fountain Hills and now the honorary council for the country of El Salvador, who lives right here, Enrique Melendez. So, and they were great support in helping keep our kids safe and getting everything done that they needed to do in a short period of time. And Claire McWilliams is a phenomenal teacher and mentor for these youth. Some highlights from Fountain Hills Rural Metro. Our Fountain Hills Fire Department's done a lot of great things this year to be better prepared to help take care of us. They've got an EMT, they've got their EMTs and paramedics trained on advancements in pre-hospital care. A couple of things in particular, they've got this new diagnostic 12-lead ECG for early detection of myocardial infarction, so they can do some work on you and make sure they've got everything down to the cath lab at Scottsdale or Osborne, wherever they're heading to make sure that they're prepared for you, and that's already ended up with saving a life or two already this year. We've got world-class clinical trials going on for closed traumatic head injuries. So God forbid that occurs to anyone you love, but it's nice to know that these folks are the professionals that are ready to take care of us should we need them. Other groups you may not know of that are volunteer organizations that work hand in hand with our public safety professionals is CARE Fountain Hills, a group that's been going on for many years, volunteer team that meets you when you are at your worst. When you have a crisis or a trauma going on, these caring, loving people will come out and help you to understand what to do with your next steps at the worst time in your life. And they work with our fire and sheriff's office to take care of you. And then the Fountain Hills Sheriff's Posse, another great volunteer organization, folks that spend their own dollars to get uniforms and training just so they can volunteer their time to watch out for us. And they do a great job, and also supplementing the sheriff's office with patrol, taking prisoners down, transporting them, keeping our deputies on the streets here in Fountain Hills. And they also need your support. So both groups could use additional volunteers and also some dollars. If you're on vacation, you're on vacation, you've got a vacation watch with the posse, a lot of folks use that. Make sure you support them with some dollars because they work on their own dollars. I wanted to highlight one exciting thing that happened this year, a very positive element of law enforcement here in Fountain Hills, and you may have heard about it. The capture of the rock burglar was this year, and the deputies here in Fountain Hills worked with a lot of different jurisdictions around the valley and ended up capturing the rock burglar in the act right here in Fountain Hills. And they did so by utilizing the massive amount of resources that MCSO has and can bring to bear on serious situations, and they did in this case. They used some real smart technology and were able to figure out where this person was likely going to show up, and they did show up there, and they captured him. And they did a great job, and hats off to Captain there and your team for doing such a great job and bringing those resources to bear for our community. Thank you very much. We did say goodbye to our town manager, Rick Davis, and we thanked him for his great service as he moved on to a much larger city. That's some highlight from this year. He did a great job for many years. We all loved Rick. And we also have been served in interim fashion by town manager Julie Getty, who couldn't be here tonight, but she's just done such a great job. And then in another couple weeks, we'll be welcoming our new town manager, Ken Buchanan. We like to have fun in Fountain Hills, as the first slide showed, and a partnership we've had and we really benefit greatly from is Ballet Arizona comes out here and does their preview. If you haven't been a part of that, look out for it this year. It's really, truly colorful and amazing artistic event at Fountain Park. They do a great job. Did you know that there are dog racing in Fountain Park? There was at Oktoberfest this year. Thanks to Spike's Treats, that's Ronnie there. He had I think it was just dachshunds that actually had a little course. They ran through there, and I think they had to do a couple dead heats because there were some tiebreakers. But we do like to have a good time in Fountain Hills, and that was during Oktoberfest, and that was fun to watch. I wanted to just touch on something a little unique here tonight. Fountain Hills is obviously a local governmental agency, and but we all live in the United States of America. I hear a lot of folks that are concerned with things nationally in particular, but things bleed over here locally when people are concerned nationally, it makes sense. But I just wanted to point out a couple things how we differentiate ourselves, and so that you can be comfortable with your town, with the staff, with the administration, with the town council. As you can tell, things, what mostly gets people concerned about at the federal level is the budget. And as we know, that's the trajectory the budget is at the federal level. That's not the case here. I just wanted to point out that you can make a real difference here locally, even though many of you are concerned nationally with things, and there's a lot of work to do there. There's a lot of work to be done here. And I encourage you to continue to be focused locally on making a difference here yourself, even if you're concerned nationally. The town governance is much different than federal governance. We have a lot different responsibilities here, and obviously things that are local are much closer to the citizenry, and you can make a big difference. And I'm proud of what the council's been able to do here to manage through this crisis, the worst recession since the Great Depression. Meanwhile, federal and state jurisdictions are finding it difficult to manage their budgets as well, and they do push some costs down to local municipalities. So keep an eye on that and help us make sure that we are aware of those opportunities, and that we can make sure we're watching out and helping the other agencies be aware of the constraints and the burdens they may be pushing on us. There are more federal laws and state laws that limit our local autonomy, and we think that's important as a local body. Let's make sure that Fountain Hills can be what we want it to be, not be limited by a law here or there that keeps us from being what we choose to be, because not always will the square peg and a round hole fit into one another. We are from all different backgrounds here in Fountain Hills, but we often come together from diverse backgrounds towards common ideals and goals here in Fountain Hills. So let's stay focused on Fountain Hills and make sure we can maintain that autonomy. Encourage everybody to be positive, add value in community, and to get directly involved rather than just from the sidelines. Some folks will remain on the sidelines for a number of different reasons, but that's not where the job's getting done. From the sidelines, people can make noise, people can be concerned, but not until you step in and get engaged and involved will you help yourself and help your community. So make sure you step up. There's a talk show guy that says, nice people make the world better and mean people make it worse. Pretty simple statement, but we're all fortunate here in Fountain Hills to have a great deal of caring, very nice people. But I just encourage everybody to keep that in mind, because at times when we're concerned with where things are at with jobs and the budget and all that sort of thing, it's important that we look out for one another. So keep it up. Our town budget, in contrast to the federal budget, is this direction. The town didn't get bailouts and didn't get those types of things. We had to make our way through it, and we did because we all worked hard together. And we have to balance our budget every year. So we do that, and we take that seriously. We have a bright future ahead of us for this year and next year and beyond. We're going to look to have more businesses thriving as the economy starts to flatten a little bit and perhaps start an upward trajectory. I think I feel more confidence here in the city around us, and also in the town of Fountain Hills. There are more people out to eat. There are some good things happening. The Avenue of the Fountain, as I mentioned last year, we're eventually going to have a waiting list out there for businesses wanting to be on that Avenue of the Fountain. We have a highly engaged public that really enjoys serving others, and that'll just continue to grow. We'll rely more on the 3 Ps, the public-private partnerships, as we move forward. Community organizations will continue to grow. They've taken a bit of a hit with the recession. These are the organizations that do things that help the community of Fountain Hills, the students, and others. The Visitor Center, we're looking to someday to have one down at Fountain Park again, where it was originally. I think that'd be exciting. Growing outdoor events and activities, particularly outdoor trails, some of the things that help differentiate us from our neighboring communities. We have some beautiful trails, and if you ever happen to look at what's marketed in other communities, you might think it was taken right here in Fountain Hills, and many of them were. So we got more people moving to Fountain Hills and visiting Fountain Hills in the future as we move forward, because we have such a special beauty here, and also a welcomeness of our people. A newer event that's occurring and really ramping up again is the Arts on the Avenue, drawing more people downtown and also more residents. Encourage everybody to check that out each Thursday in downtown. And it's really important, as I mentioned earlier, to shop locally, to succeed as a community with the reliance on sales tax that we have. Don't go over the hill. Stay right here. Support your local businesses. Those businesses are probably owned by a neighbor of yours. They probably employ another neighbor of yours. And if your dollars are going elsewhere for services and supplies that are here in Fountain Hills, those dollars don't come back, and those don't support your neighbors. So make sure you shop locally. It's very, very important. We are focused on our downtown vision and moving forward. I wanted to bring this slide up. It's something that's not remaining on the shelf. Our team here in Town Hall is working very hard with other partners to realize the downtown vision plan, and it's making some strides. As we celebrated the other night and got a lot of excitement, we approved the movie theater in downtown, and we're excited to see that move forward. And as I mentioned the other night, I'm more excited to see what follows after that. Additional businesses. Can't imagine how busy the restaurants will be. In closing, I just want to thank everyone for your ongoing support, and hope that God continues to bless the beautiful town of Fountain Hills, the greatest town in the world, and look forward to moving forward with all of you together in the future. Thank you very much. All right. We're going to get on with the rest of our show. If you it's going to be a brief meeting, but if you were here just for that, thank you very much for coming. Have a great night. Thanks, Mike. All right, we'll continue our meeting now and move on to call to the public. Bev, everyone from the public tonight?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you, Bev. We'll move on to the consent item. Item 1, consideration of approving the town council meeting minutes from February 2, 2012. Consideration of approving an application for extension of premise patio permit for Marita at Euro Pizza. Purpose of temporary extension of premises in conjunction with the Banditos Mountain to Fountain 15K event on Sunday, March 11th. Consideration of approving wine festival license, wine fair license for Mr. McLaughlin, representing Jerome Winery, for participation in the Thunderbird Artist on March 23rd, 24th, 25th. And item 4, consideration approving special event liquor license application for Robert Bailey for Kiwanis for a fundraiser to be held in the Avenue Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 23rd, 24th, and 25th. Excuse me. And the last item 5, a special event liquor license app for Carlos Alvarez for Veterans of Foreign Wars, Post 7507, for a fundraiser on Friday, 24th, 25th of February. Can I get a motion to, in a second? Roll call.
Councilmember Cantino? Councilmember Hanson? Aye. Councilmember Leger?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dickey?
Aye.
Mayor Schlum?
Yep. Aye.
Councilmember Brown?
Aye.
Councilmember Elke?
Aye.
Mayor 7-0.
Thank you. All right, on to the regular agenda. Consideration of accepting sculpture titled Winds of Change for public display in the Centennial Circle. Mark, how are you?
Fine. Thank you very much, Mayor and members of the council. I have before you this evening a potential piece of public art titled Winds of Change. This particular piece is being recommended by the Public Art Committee, and we are also joined this evening by the chair, who's also joining us, Sandy Thompson. So if there are any questions that I can't answer, she certainly would likely be able to answer them. They are also recommending, in addition to your consideration of acceptance of the piece, also the potential placement in the newly ordained Centennial Circle. The piece is titled Winds of Change. As I mentioned, it would go in the Centennial Circle. The piece was done by a local sculptor by the name of Jim Domset and has a listed value of $12,500. And the piece is being donated, therefore the costs are being covered by Walt and Nancy Franklin. I also included in there some information about the actual location and a picture of the piece as well. It's a fairly large piece. It's over 6 feet tall. So I think it'll be a nice addition to the Centennial Circle, and this will, I believe, bring us to 4 pieces of art. So we're halfway through the total number of 8 pieces that ultimately would go down there. And then lastly, the site map, which shows a location specifically fairly close to the community center, which was desired by the Public Art Committee. So with that, I would answer any questions that the council might have.
All right, thanks, Mark. Anyone from the public on this item?
No, Mayor.
All right, council, any questions on this? Great. Sandy, anything you'd like to share?
The only thing I can say is that I believe the top portion of it will be stainless steel rather than the black.
So stainless steel in color. Thank you. Good. I like the placement. The Centennial Circle is tremendous. Now we have a huge usable space out there where it was just gravel before and largely unused. I like the placement because it's out down the outside of the ring, so that whole circle itself with the pavers can be utilized for a number of different things along with enjoying the art. So I think that's a nice spot. Councilmember Diggy?
Mayor, I'd move to accept the sculpture titled Winds of Change and approving the placement location.
All right. Any other questions?
Mayor, for me.
Councilmember Elke?
Yeah, Sandy, if you could express our sincere appreciation to Walt and Nancy Franklin for the donation. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you. All right. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mayor 7-0.
Thank you. Item 7, consideration of professional services agreement with Sunrise Engineering for the design of the Fountain Hills Boulevard shoulder paving project in the amount of $104,900. How are you, Randy?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, show me how to get out of this, would you? Okay.
You got it.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item is for the a design contract for approval of a shoulder paving project on the two-lane section of Fountain Hills Boulevard. That section of Fountain Hills Boulevard, as you can see on the screen there, runs from Pinto up to Segundo, and this project will pave 5-foot wide shoulders on all of the sections of roadway that don't currently aren't already widened in there. This map shows where those sections are on the two sides. It's shown in red. You can see the sections that already are widened to full width in there, and so we won't be doing anything in those sections. This project is primarily we were selected for this project because of its air quality benefits. Cars going off the pavement create quite a bit of dust, and so that was the reason for the selection. But I actually consider the important part of this project is the safety benefit of having a paved shoulder. A vehicle that goes off, has a wheel go off the pavement, that's an accident. A vehicle that goes onto a paved shoulder, nobody even knew what happened. In the last decade, we've had 38 accidents on this section of Fountain Hills Boulevard, of which 64% of them have been single vehicle accidents. I can't tell you that all of them ran off the road, but single vehicle accidents, that's probably the most common thing that would be a single vehicle accident. In addition to those benefits, this is not a bike lane, but a bike traveling on Fountain Hills Boulevard will now have a place to go outside of the paved travel lane. This is not a sidewalk, but a pedestrian who is walking along Fountain Hills Boulevard has a place to walk that's not in the travel lane and not trying to wade his way across the dirt, across the millings that we have on the shoulders there, or across the desert vegetation on the shoulder. This project, we've been selected by the Maricopa Association of Governments for a $255,000 construction grant, federal aid grant for this project, which can fund up to 94.3% of the construction costs of this project. We don't anticipate that the ultimate widening of this project will occur for many, many years, potentially after 2030 even. You can see from the tabulation in your packet, this federal aid funding will cover 65% of the total cost of this project: design, construction, inspection by EDOT. And staff does recommend approval of this. Both the Development Services Director, Paul Mood, and I have been involved in the negotiation of this contract, and so we're both satisfied that this is a good contract with a good engineering firm, and we'd recommend approval of this.
Thanks, Randy. Anyone from the public have?
No, sir.
Council, any questions for Randy or staff? Councilmember Rauke.
Randy, thank you. If the council at some point in the near future were to change the town code to where commercial traffic was to just go along Fountain Hills Boulevard and take it off of Saguaro, would that have any impact on anything that you have planned now, or as far as any future plans? I know you said there wasn't anything planned for until 2030 as far as some medians and that sort of thing.
Mayor, Councilman Elke, what I was saying is I believe that the traffic on Fountain Hills Boulevard will not warrant being widened until 2030. However, if you decided to change the truck lane to being Fountain Hills Boulevard, I mean, there are a number of issues with that, one of which is the big hills, one of which is the curves, one of which is that there's only one lane in each direction. Shall I go on with that? But that would be a big issue to switch the truck lane to Fountain Hills Boulevard in its current condition. But if you did do that, having paved shoulders would certainly be a benefit to having big trucks on the road.
Is there anything that you should do or this contract should contain that might take that into account if we did that at some future date? I'm just trying to think in the future if that change is made. Is there anything that we should be looking at now potentially, or should be aware of now potentially, that may become an issue later?
Mayor, Councilman Elke, I mean, I would, I'm seeing that really the time to make that kind of decision would be when we ultimately widen Fountain Hills Boulevard to the 4 lanes. I mean, that would give you a way to get around a truck, pass a truck that's going up a hill, and that type of thing. But if you decide to do that before then, obviously, a truck that couldn't make the hill and was going really slow could pull off on the paved shoulder and let you conceivably get around him going up a steep upgrade or that type of thing. So
I think you've answered it. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. Councilmember Dickey, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. So when in 2014 would this be complete?
Mayor, Councilwoman Dickey, we'll have to get a more complete schedule once we actually get started, but I'm thinking late in 2014. Going through the ADOT process they say it's an 18 to 24 month process, but I don't believe that. It's 2.5, 3 years or even longer.
Okay, Mayor, that doesn't affect the grant though, right?
Basically, we need to have it obligated in 2014, which is September 30th, 2014. The construction of it can go after that.
Thank you.
Unless we get a extension, which is almost automatic, that we can get a 1-year extension for MAG on this.
Councilmember Hanson.
I drive Fountain Hills Boulevard multiple times every day, and I think this really is a safety issue. I think this is a good idea. There are a lot of cyclists on Fountain Hills Boulevard, and it always causes cars to swerve over into the other lane to go around them. And erosion is a big factor too. When it rains, we get those big rivulets, and the grade drops down even more. So I think this is going to be a real big improvement.
Good. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Randy, $104,000 is a fairly large number for design. How did we come up with the engineering firm that we were going to retain if this passes?
Mayor, Councilman Brown, this is a direct select engineering contract, which is the way we've done most of our engineering contracts. Development Services Director Paul Mood was very familiar with this firm from his work in Gilbert, and that's why we selected them. We negotiated the contract with them. It was a fairly lengthy negotiation, and we're satisfied with the price that they provided and the level, their knowledge of the level of effort that is going to be required, which is what generates that.
Has Fountain Hills used them in the past?
Mayor, Councilman, we have not.
Okay, and one last question for you. I see that
I would mention that the Development Services Director, Paul Mood, has worked closely with them in the past in his previous employment.
I was just curious, mainly, it's just a large number, and I see that we've got the budget is set up to pay for it for three years, so we worked through all that. Would the section of asphalt that is being designed for the additional area, the lane that we're going to be putting in, is it designed for heavy traffic?
Mayor, Councilman Brown, no, it's not. It's designed as a shoulder. And we do intend to design several sections of it for heavier traffic so we could eventually put in, widen the road for left turn pockets or for right turn pockets. And we'll need to provide our consultant with locations for those, right up front so he can place that thicker pavement section in those specific locations.
Certainly. Thank you very much. And I, too, have to agree that I drive Fountain Hills Boulevard several times a day, and this would be a nice addition to the town.
And Councilmember Leger.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Randy. And you just mentioned something I think it's important for the public to know, because I think when we do look at that number, it seems rather large just for paving the shoulder, but based on your proposal, it really is designing turn pockets, right, left lane turn pockets, as you stated, different applications for traffic to travel on that. And I think that's critical because, as Councilwoman Hanson had mentioned, we have some safety issues there, and some of the safety issues that I encounter is when you're coming over a hill and someone needs to turn and there's not a turning lane, and they kind of screech their brakes on, put their turn signal on, and that creates a safety problem. So I was a little taken back by the 104 as well, Councilman Brown, but I think when you start looking at that additional design work, those dollars start adding up. So thank you, Randy.
Randy, where's this as far as the budget? Is it under what was budgeted, or is this what's budgeted?
It is slightly over what was budgeted over these 3 years, but not excessive. It will be included in next year's budget in accordance with what this is. So.
And the grant amount is for, how much money are we being granted for this project?
The grant amount is for $255,000 and some dollars, and that'll pay for 94.3% of the construction work.
Okay, and how, is this over a mile long?
Yes.
I'm assuming from Pinto
yeah,
to
I thought it was about a mile and
Segundo?
a half or so.
Okay, it's a good, it's a large area. Very good. I'm glad somebody brought up that the erosion too. That we've heard about that from our residents as well. Got any other questions? All right, can we get a motion to approve this professional service agreement?
Mayor, I move to approve a professional service agreement with Sunrise Engineering, Inc. for the design of the Fountain Hills Boulevard shoulder paving project in the amount of $104,900.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other questions? Andrew, we all right? Good. All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Mayor 7-0.
Thank you. Item number 8, council discussion direction to acting town manager, community service director, Mark Mayer. Nothing on that item, I don't believe. Mark, how about next item, summary of and report on recent activity. Anything you wish to share?
Just that each of you should have received a packet this evening in regards to the budget. That information is for your benefit and leading up to the discussion on Tuesday regarding the budget at our work session.
All right, thank you very much, Mark. All right, can we get a motion to adjourn? So moved. And a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much.